Today on Geek Devotions, we will be talking about the series Your Light in April and where our purpose really comes from. Hello and welcome, fellow geeks, to Geek Devotions, a show by two devoted geeks devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I am Sierra Hall, and Dallas and Celeste have graciously allowed me to share some things with y'all. Yay! Guess what? It's Anime April! Woo woo! So, I was tasked with picking anything anime, and watching it, and loving it, and then talking about it with you all. And I'm super excited. Like I said, my name's Sierra, and I decided to pick a series called Your Light in April, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not completely done with it yet, but I'm almost done with it. It was really fun. Alright, so I am not necessarily an avid anime viewer, but while I was looking for what to watch, I came across this show, and it was about a piano prodigy, and I just so happened to have majored in music and am a music teacher, so I was like, let's give it a go! And it was very surprisingly, no, not surprisingly, it was good. So this show centers around the junior high character, Kōsei Arima. I really like to say Arima. So fun to say. But anyways, so he is a piano prodigy. He's been playing since he was a child, but he has a very sad story. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong with this sweet little boy. So his mother, who was also his piano teacher, she had a very long illness, and at the end of her illness became very mean, and then she died. His father is always away on business. That's what they say, on business. We don't know what business, so he basically lives alone, and he has two best friends that are in there, and so all these things have gone wrong. And because of his mother's death, he had a traumatic experience. Like, the competition that he went to right after his mother died, he basically saw like a vision of her, and he broke down. He basically had a mental breakdown as a little boy. And from that point on, he got severe anxiety anytime that he tried to play the piano, to the point to where he couldn't hear the notes that he was even playing. It sounded like he was underwater, everything blurred together. So he has severe anxiety with this piano playing that he started out loving, but because of his mother having this illness and her getting worse and worse, she actually emotionally abused him. She even physically abused him. We see at some parts he has bruises on his hands because his mother during their lessons. And it's very sad. At one point, we see that his mother, we see a scene where he's with his mother while she's ill, and he has won this competition, and he goes to tell her, and he's so excited, and she's like, oh, that just makes me feel well again. So then he gets it in his mind that if he wins all these competitions, that somehow his mother will be healed. So his purpose for playing the piano turns into healing his mother. And then when his mother dies, his purpose is gone. So in life, bad things can happen to us, and it seems like our purpose is gone. Like, we no longer have a purpose in life. But our purpose doesn't come from people, it doesn't come from things, it doesn't come from our job, it doesn't come from successes, but it comes only from God. In Jeremiah 1:5, the Bible says, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. Now, this is the first thing that Jeremiah writes down that he hears from the Lord. And at this point in Jeremiah, God is speaking to him. He's not speaking to him to speak to somebody else. He's speaking directly to him. And Jeremiah, of course doubts what God is saying, but God confirms who he is. He confirms his purpose, that he's a prophet to the nations. And that can be applied to us. God confirms who we are, and he is the only one that can do that. God knew us before we were even born. He knew our talents, he knew our personalities, he knew our quirks, he knew our desires. He knows everything about us, And he knows who we are and what we're purposed to do for him. So back to our story. Kōsei originally gets his purpose in playing the piano from wanting to heal his mother. And then in the story, a character is introduced, this pretty girl. She's fiery, she's emotional, and she inspires him with her music playing to then turn around and start playing music again. But this time not to heal his mother because she's gone, but to give the music itself justice. It's because the music pulls him in and he almost has to play. That's what she inspires him to do. And so his purpose then becomes, I need to play this because I need to give the music justice. It's about the music. It's all about the music. But we are to find our purpose in God, who created us. And like I said, knows everything about us. So back to Jeremiah. Later on in Jeremiah, he is writing to Jews who are exiled in Babylon. And he is writing to these people to tell them what the Lord has told him to tell them. And so we're going to read in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a hope and a future. So God knows. Like we already talked about. He knows. But that doesn't mean everything's going to be all good. Because literally in the verse right before verse 11, it says that the Jews would be exiled for 70 more years. 70 more years. And then it says, and later in that verse it says, like, but the Lord's promises will still come to pass and it will be all good. And then it says this, the scripture that we read, 29:11. So these Jews are hearing, look, you'll be here for 70 more years and some of you will probably be dead by then. But, for I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, all these good things. We read 29:11 like it's the best thing ever, which it is. It's hope. But we never look at 10 when they're still there for 70 years. Stuff just doesn't happen all of a sudden. We have to be patient with the Lord. But he knows everything about us. Every believer in Jesus has a purpose. Your purpose is to seek him, to put him first in your life, to hear his voice, to do what he says, and to share his goodness with everyone that you see. Alright, so in one part of the show, we see a flashback moment of Kōsei, but it's actually in the viewpoint of one of his competitors, Emi. And it's when she's a little girl and she hasn't started playing the piano yet. So she's sitting in this concert and honestly she looks like this. Because she's asleep. Because it's boring. But Kōsei comes on stage in the competition and he actually knocks over the bench because he's super nervous because it's his first time. So of course he freaks out with his hands all, But it wakes her up and so Kōsei, fixes his little bench. And he sits down at the piano and he plays one note to start out with. And she sees it in color. So she literally sees a color whenever he plays this note. And it amazes her. So she's just her little eyes are just glimmering. And she's like, oh. And how her eyes are this big. She's like, oh, it's so amazing. But it is so cool because he gets through with his piece and he plays and everybody's like, yes! But before anybody can really clap, she starts bawling, crying like a little child, ah! Super loud. And Kōsei is on the stage oh my gosh, I made somebody cry with my piano playing. Oh, it's so funny. But after that, everybody might have thought it was because it was so bad, but she was so overwhelmed because she loved it so much. So she goes home, she throws away her art supplies, she throws away her sports stuff because she has decided to be a piano player. So she starts lessons, and she later tells her music teacher, her piano teacher, she wanted to play piano in such a way, like Kōsei did, to inspire others to then play the piano. She wanted to play in a way that would make some other little girl say, oh, that was beautiful and I want to play piano just like that. And that's how we should be as Christians, Our lives should be like that. Like, people see how I live my life, and they see how I love Jesus, and how I reach out to others, and they should be inspired by that and say, you know what? I want to live like Jesus like that. So if you're complicating, your life and what the purpose God has for you, don't overcomplicate it. Just serve Him, seek Him, and share Him with others. Listen to what He's saying and do what He says. And then you're literally following the purpose He has for you. If you need prayer about the purposes that God has for you, if you need to be able to see it more, if you need to be more confident in it, then comment below and so that we can pray for you, because we want to pray for you. And if you want to live a life that inspires others to live their life for Jesus too, then just do it. Nothing's stopping you. Just do it and walk in it with confidence. Alright, so question of the week. Does it crack you up as much as it does me whenever the characters all of a sudden get super emotional? Like, one moment they have, heart eyes, and they're all like, oh, and they're smiling, and there's pink things around, and then all of a sudden they're like, ah, and there's fire in their eyes, and there's fangs. Man, does it crack you up as much as it does me? Because I died laughing every single time. So there's your question. Please check out Geek Devotions Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to share this with someone that you might think needs to hear this message. Just share it with them and see what God does. Thanks for letting me share with y'all, and I really appreciate Dallas and Celeste for letting me do this. And remember, stay devoted. Peace and love, because music is amazing, and I want to do it justice.
Sarah, don't hesitate.
I'm sorry.
I don't think it'll pick it up.
Well, it's a cute show, so it might as well be cute. He found his purpose and identity and find his... Okay. Shh. That was the teacher in me. I'm sorry. I do that to my kids. They're like... So, back to our story. Kōsei gets his purpose from...